Hi, this is Marie-Pierre. I am part of the Physiotherapy Committee at the ICS, and we are here in Toronto 2023 ICS annual meeting. And I have here Forner and Hodges. They participated in the Physiotherapy Forum, and so I want to get to know about their experience and perspectives for, the years that are coming. So tell us about your experience as presenters in the Physiotherapy Forum.
Well, this is my first time at an international conference, so I was very nervous but very excited. And I've never been to a Physiotherapy Forum before, but that was the most comfortable, little intimate space, and I just felt, I felt really comfortable and had a lot of fun too. And really great talks, and I loved it.
I've been to many. I've been to
no surprise
ICS many times over the last 25 years or so. And Physio Forum is one of my favourite things. It is a community of people who, it includes the people who are leaders within the continence space, but it also includes other people who work primarily clinically, other academics. It is a really comfortable place to be presenting new data, to propose new ideas and to get great feedback in a really collegial environment. It's a really great, it's my favourite part of the conference, and it's one of the conferences I like to come to because of that.
Well, thank you for this feedback. What work did you present today at the Physiotherapy Forum?
One of the studies from my thesis, in which Paul is also a professor and a supervisor, we're looking at the transperineal ultrasound imaging and looking at the differences in women with and without prolapse in between two positions of assessment, so standing and supine. So really what we had found is that it's common to assess people in supine, but in standing there's less pelvic floor muscle support, and it hasn't really been looked at yet. So that is what I presented on.
And what would be the key messages of this presentation, for clinical practice?
For clinical practice, that standing is an important position to look at, especially with transperineal ultrasound, looking at pelvic floor morphometry measures, and particularly at rest, so not just when people are bearing down, because I think it'll be useful in functional positions and functional movements, but the study focused, or the main findings of the study were that at rest and standing, there's big differences between supine and standing, but also between those two groups of people.
Interesting. What about you, Paul?
So I was asked to talk about transperineal ultrasound imaging in men. So it's something we've been investigating for a long time. So it's been really common to use transperineal ultrasound imaging in women. We started using the approach in men probably 15 years ago, and over that time there's been a huge amount of increase in understanding of how to interpret the images. And so what I was asked to talk about today was how do you interpret what you see, and it's not simple. There are many different factors that influence what you see, and one of the things that's amazing about observing male pelvic floor is that you can see the sophistication of the continence mechanism. So it's not just contract your pelvic floor or not, it's actually this interplay of different muscles that work together to maintain continence. So the puborectalis, the striated urethral sphincter and the bulbar capnosus, they all work together in a really sophisticated way, and with ultrasound imaging we can see how they coordinate during coughing, we can see how that changes when you change position, we can see how how the muscles contract when you breathe, and what happens when you provide electrical stimulation. And I think one of the things that is most important is that it enables us as physios to have an extra level of sophistication of what we do. It's not just pelvic floor rehabilitation for men with incontinence after prostatectomy. It's being able to understand for that individual man what is the problem that man presents with that we need to address. How is that characterised when they cough, when they move, when they breathe, when they stand, when they sit? What are the things that we need to target on? And what we've been able to show in a lot of our physiological studies of men with and without prostatectomy is the difference in how those muscles are coordinated together. And I think what it's allowing us to be is really sophisticated professionals where we can personalise care to the man, and we can really tailor the intervention to match the needs and to match how the system has been modified by the surgical procedure. Some men will have a every muscle still intact and working fine. Some men will have some compromise to their sphincter, so they'll have to learn to use a different strategy. Some men start with a different strategy and find it more difficult to learn, but ultrasound gives us a great way to use feedback. So I think ultrasound is an amazing tool that will allow us to be much more precise with what we do. And the talk today was about how we go about making that interpretation from the images.
Mm-hmm. Well, we do know that ultrasound imaging is, an instrument that is increasingly used in clinical practice. So it's really interesting and really relevant to talk about it in this conference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we had this talk about ultrasound imaging, and now my question for you is, among the other presentations at the Physiotherapy Forum, was there anything really interesting for you that you will take out from that event?
Now, can I go first?
Yes, okay.
Because Laura might steal it.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what it is.
I got very excited by one presentation, and that was a presentation where two physiotherapists from the UK had taken an education program into schools to teach girls between the age 12 and 17, I think, to give them a baseline understanding of what the pelvic floor muscles were, how to contract them, not just how to contract them, but actually sophistication around that, using tools to make sure it was accurate. Talking to them about what problems occur, when there might be a problem in their life and how to manage that. Brilliant. And why not make it, not normalise pelvic floor dysfunction, but make pelvic floor dysfunction understandable early. And the thing that I think is a huge opportunity is that in women's health, or in the health of people with female anatomy, there has been this surge of interest over years. People know that pelvic floor is important, maybe not these girls and this getting the information earlier, but we've now got this opportunity to make this enormous leap forward for men of being able to educate young boys about when in the future they might need to think about pelvic floor and get ready for that and not be surprised and have some understanding about, in fact, it's really valuable to be aware of this part of your body and how to train. I think we've got a great opportunity to take advantage of this, not to let boys fall behind.
And I think it's, like you said, it's really bring awareness to those kinds of pelvic floor dysfunction that can occur quite early, but also being aware of it if later in life you develop them. And it's really nice to have this perspective about men's health, because of course young men, sometimes they can have ejaculation dysfunction. So it's a good topic to talk to them about. So thank you.
And pelvic floor dysfunction in young boys, young men, is not uncommon in many different forms, and for them to be aware just makes that barrier so much easier to cross. A great study.
Great. There were so many good ones. I would have chosen that one as well.
Which is why I had to jump in first.
But I loved the one where they were talking about how we can educate and train pelvic floor physios coming into the field, as in they did a few little talks based on how physios are being educated in order to perform and learn pelvic floor work and how it's done in other countries and where we are, but then opening the discussion up to other people to go, well, what should we do? What might look best? I mean, we haven't come to a conclusion. There's still argument about, should we be doing peer-to-peer examinations on each other? Should we be bringing partners? What about, bringing men partners? What if it's, there's gender non-binary? Like, there's so many, using artificial pelvises in order to learn, but then you lose the teaching aspect of being able to tell the students, well, no, that's not the spot. If you move over to the left, that's what I'm trying to teach you. So all these different things that we're trying to work out what might be the best way to provide education for future people. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that evolves over time, but I found that was, a fun talk.
Great. Yeah. Well, thank you. And for those who are listening, maybe considering coming to the ICS annual meeting, what would you say to them that they would consider more seriously in coming and joining us?
Again, first international conference. The networking is so much fun. Not just the events around the networking, but being able to meet people that you may have spoken to online. Like I was telling my family, I was going to be coming and staying with friends, and he's like, have you met those friends in person? I'm like, no, I haven't. I've only met them online. So all these people that I've connected with over the years, and the networking and meeting new people and the discussions, and yeah, I think that has been my favorite part. So I think if people are considering or not sure, I think that's a great avenue, unless they're a little bit more introverted, but there are spaces that you can go to have some breathing time. But yeah.
If someone is an early career researcher, it's a great community to present with because of the collegiality, and so any new researcher who wants to present some work related to pelvic health related issues, this is a great forum. It's also really diverse in that there are I spent most of yesterday in pelvic pain sessions, and there is a huge amount of diversity across the spectrum of pelvic health conditions. So there's a lot of opportunity to present your work in those domains. Most sessions are multidisciplinary, which is great, and that's clearly critical. Physiotherapy Forum is clearly physiotherapy, but that serves a slightly different purpose. So for early career researchers, absolutely a place to come. For someone who is a clinician who wants to learn about the profession, this is actually a conference where there is practical take home. There's very much a focus on ensuring that talks have a piece that people take home with them. So as a clinician attendee is also really valuable. Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you for accepting our invitation as presenters at the Physiotherapy Forum. So we'll leave you. Have a good day.